Hello viewer, Lorenzo here. This is KSP to Mars, episode 56. And today we start on the moon with our Icarus lander that has in yesterday's episode landed, done science, and after that Hudgen went to sleep. Now if you haven't seen yesterday's episode, I resolved in that to head to this region to attempt more science. It's hard to see which flags. I thought for a second this flag was here, but it's on the other side of the moon. Two flags, the moon is very much translucent because of course it is made of translucent cheese. Right, so we're going to try and do a suborbital hop. We have an amount of delta V left in the rocket, 4.5 kilometers per second. I'm going to keep this window open because it's important we don't use too much. Because, well, if that happens, then we won't be able to get back into orbit, which is important for the recovery and, of course, the life of Hudgan and his science. Now the heading we want to have is somewhere in between directly northbound and 90 degrees, so we'll call that 45 degrees. And with that decision, that conclusion reached, let's punch the engine and get some altitude at the landing legs in, not that it really matters so much, and pitching over at a 45 degree. We're at 45 degrees squared, or whatever you would like to call that heading. Let's have a look at our surface readouts. Our vertical speed is increasing. That means we're not falling back, that this heading will be workable. And now it's just a matter of, well, pushing this arc out until our targeted landing zone. It will be a challenge to leave enough space to decelerate and land again while on this suborbital trajectory. Of course, that needs to be combined with not wasting too much energy. For now, we are happy. We need about 2 kilometers per second to get into an orbit. That means we have 2.2 at this moment of left over to, well, do our suborbital hop. So we should be fine in that way. Of course, this is a prime candidate for a case of real solar system size dysphoria, my made-up syndrome where distances when looking at the map view become horribly underestimated because, well, in the map view it just looks like the stock game, but of course it's about 10 times larger. We are up to, well, what would be in the stock game half orbital speed for the moon, I think. It's been a while since I played stock, so it's getting hard to remember the exact figures. But I seem to recall that in the stock game this would definitely count as orbital speed. Yeah. I'm satisfied with my apoapsis, so I'm just going to pitch over and head straight for the horizon. That's the beauty of the moon and other airless bodies. You, of course, don't strictly need to gain any altitude before burning horizontally, either for a suborbital hop or for a honest-to-God actual orbit. Because, of course, there's no air resistance to slow you down. I'm now pondering how far to elongate this suborbital arc. And I think that, we're working here with the far side crater, that's this bit. We want to get out of that into the highland craters. And of course, as soon as I turn around and start slowing down again, the landing point will be pruned back a little bit. So I'm going to make it a little bit higher. Well, a little bit further, really, not so much higher. And I'm going to call it quits now. That's about 1 kilometer per second we spent. And of course we're going to expend much the same amount again, except that then coming down. Yeah. So we have our gravioli sensor that will of course double as a biome detector. We are still here at the moon's far side crater, and this science is already safely stowed away in the pod, but because it's not been logged in the research station yet, that still shows it as having value. Here we are at our apoapsis. This is the point where we have to start thinking seriously about slowing down. And let's have a look if we're over a different biome already. Midlands, that is terrible. If we land there, I'm going to be very unhappy. So let's have a look at our surface indicator. It says now impact in 3.3 minutes. That is a bit of a problem. I'm going to burn a little bit of fuel going straight up to, well, prolong that and push this forward. I'm not sure if that's smart. I'm not sure if that's smart what I'm doing now. Anyway, we don't have a lot of options. I can boost forward for maybe another 150 meters per second, but then we're fast approaching the red line. Because we do of course need about 1 kilometer per second to land again, and then we need 2 kilometers per second to get back into orbit. So I want to leave myself a little bit of safety margin, because we do already have valuable science on board, and we can just go up to the Prometheus and refuel. So I'm going to spend the rest of the fuel in landing. One thing we have learned is that a suborbital hop like halfway around the moon, that is definitely not in the cards. This is about the maximum distance we can do from one landing to the other. It's still a fair amount, but it's not as much as I'd hoped it to be. So we're going to have to take a careful look at where we want to land next time, so that we can find 2 biomes that are close to one another. And I think that's definitely doable, but it will take some some careful planning. And the fact that I'm trying to land here in the highland craters, well, from the map view it certainly looks cratery. That's based purely on vague recollection from the pass we did over there earlier. And we are looking at an impact in 2.5 minutes, and we can accelerate at 0.6 Gs. This will 1.5 minute is what my my in-head calculation tells me. I'm reasoning like this: if I can accelerate at 1 G in 100 seconds, I can do about 1 kilometer per second. I can accelerate less, so let's say it's 600 meters per second in 100 seconds. 100 seconds is of course a minute and a half, and during that time I will also slow down. So if I start decelerating at an impact timer for 1 minute 30 seconds, I should be fine. At least that's the logic I am using. This is pro in-head descent computing. I hope that works out. The moon's midlands now. I'm going to actually, well, I'm not going to time warp forward for those 30 seconds. I hope it will count as the highland craters. That would be nice if it did. Well, we are still going forwards at hundreds of meters per second, so we might make it to a boundary. Otherwise, maybe there's some residual science that I can do from the midlands. A surface sample, I think you can return it twice for a little bit of extra science, but of course it's nicer to not to have a completely fresh one. Okay, one more check. It doesn't even matter because I'm going to have to start slowing down regardless. We're at the 1 minute 30 second mark, and there it goes. Now we're looking at a few minutes burn again. I will cut that out and I will see you back near the ground. And there we are, coming in for the landing again. I've skipped most of it because it was all of it done in pitch black, instrument only flying. Yeah, so much for my cinematic skills. 0 marks out of infinite. But I think the landing is going down fine. We have 30 seconds on the impact timer provided to us by KSP Flight Engineer, well, Kerbal Engineer it's called. And I'm trying to get the marker to be slapdash on the center of the nav ball so that we go straight down. We are at 900 meters currently, and I'm just waiting for the moment where my lights will illuminate the Martian, well, not the Martian surface, the lunar surface, so we might take samples from it. I haven't checked the biomes anymore. That will remain to be a surprise for when we actually do set down. 500 meters, throttling up to reduce that speed a little bit more. 10 meters per second seems reasonable. Let's have a look. I'm expecting the lights on the surface now any moment. And let's keep our collective fingers crossed for a landing in the highland craters, eh? Then we'll get more science. That would be good. Oh, look at that! Just needed to pitch down more. That's a beautiful surface in a very black nightly environment otherwise. Oh wow, one of my friends is playing Fallout Vegas. That's one of the drawbacks of this whole Steam malarkey. It keeps the games nicely organized, but it also um, gives you these readings in your game. Wow, that was a little bit of a rough landing, but we got down safe and sound. So let's have a look now at our gravity scanner. And let's hope Midlands. But hey, look at that. We never did get a gravity scan from this area of the woods, so that's sort of a victory, I suppose. Keep that data. Still 100, still 80 points. Not quite 100, but 80. Got the temperature scan. That's new as well. Wonderful. So hey, look at that. Not completely useless after all. Can we do a materials bay? No, that one was done. Can we do a goo canister? I think that one will have been done as well. This is one of our first landing biomes. But no matter. Let us get the surface samples anyway. And let's see how Hadgern gets on with the EVAing this time. Well, he seems happy. That 1 second we could see his face. Let's have a look. EVA report. Yeah, we know that. Take a surface sample. Well, 30. I'm going to go with it. Why not? We don't need a flag here because everything on the moon is Midlands anyway. So there's no need to clutter up our tracking station with that. Look at that, how eerie that is. We have some lights and there's some rocks in the distance, and otherwise there's really no one here. Oh, there is someone here. There is the guy in the crashed base that we have completely forgotten about. At least I had completely forgotten about him. Well, his rescue's suddenly back on the table. Oh, I could have designed this lander with 2 seats and then he could have come home. But, well, no. Actually, in the science building, the R&D station, I have I have unlocked the external command seat. What happened? Oh, we're standing on the light. I just lost my Kerbal there for a second. So we have that, and I think that was it. Yeah. So now we get to go back inside the capsule and prepare for a rendezvous with Prometheus. Yeah. There we are, inside. So Midlands, least favorite biome of all, but still more than 100 science points. So a victory of sorts. Now, of course, it becomes fast time to rendezvous with our mothership for a refueling session and new landing targets. And I'm going to try and make them in the day side. So set that as a target. Despite our hopping, we are still fairly well in the plane with it. Now, of course, we do have to launch in the correct direction. So we're going to launch southbound. And we're going to do so relatively close to it so that our rendezvous, whichever way it ends up having to go, won't be too long. We have 2.2 kilometers per second of delta V left. That should be enough. And now we have on the nav ball here, we have of course the target marker for the Prometheus. If we now fly this way, we are going to meet it head on flying that way, and that's not what we want to do. But we'll use it for a rough guide of being in the correct plane. So we will aim for a heading that's, well, directly opposite there. So let's light our engine. And, wow, look at that. That is nice. Illuminating the lunar surface as we blast off from it, and then we recede out of range. We can shut down the lights. Wow, good cinematic effects there. Get some points for cinematic, aesthetically pleasing videos now, I hope. Right, here we go, looking at the surface display. Our vertical speed is increasing, our altitude is at 2 kilometers. There's no mountains on the horizon. Nope, we can see stars all ahead, so that makes me happy. We're going to pitch over mostly towards the horizon. Just enough, we want to keep just enough altitude so that we don't fall back down, but that is about it. Otherwise we don't really need the altitude, because of course there is no atmosphere on our beloved moon. And we are heading completely in the wrong direction, so let's aim more south. Is this better? I hope this is better. Yeah, that's better. And I set that as a target again. Do we get an ascending and descending node? 30 degrees off. Now that might seem horrible, and it is, but it's not as horrible as you might think it is, because we only have built up a fraction of our orbital speed. So as long as we do the rest in the proper direction, that should be fine. Keeping a close eye on the vertical speed here, I want to keep my altitude down for a maximum efficiency orbital insertion, but of course I don't want to keep it down so much that I end up crashing into a mountain, so that we don't want to do that. And of course we want to have this relative inclination to be 0 degrees, so to make for an easy rendezvous. Our vessel has 1300 meters per second of delta V left. I'm going to hope that's enough. I do this all by memory and seat of the pants. So I've remembered that orbital speed here is about 1800 meters per second, but I might very well be wrong, and if it's 2.2 kilometers per second, then we're screwed. We can quickly transmit all the data home, and that will be that. So just to make sure I don't waste too much with plane changes, I'm going to burn straight prograde now. And of course the Prometheus has a remote control system, so if we do run out of juice on the Icarus here, then we can make the Prometheus catch up with us, which is the better choice anyway, because this has a order of magnitude more efficient propulsion system. Yeah. So we're up to a kilometer per second, and we have 900 meters per second of delta V left. Oh gee, I hope I didn't screw that up. I thought we had a good margin of error on the delta V, but it might turn out to be too optimistic. Do we have anything here? Well, we do have an RCS system that we could squeeze a few more meters per second out of. We are currently here on our last tank of fuel, and let's have a look at the map view again, where hopefully something resembling an orbit will soon start to form. 600 meters per second, that will give us a resultant speed of, well, it is about 1900 meters per second. It will be on orbit, or at least just a hair short of it. But yeah, it seems that I have underestimated the amount of gravity drag losses you get while getting into orbit from the moon. So we'll see if that decision comes back to, well, bite Hudgen in the ass, really. Not so much me, but Hudgen, he's under the gun now. We'll see if that turns out to be horrible or not. So we are at 43 kilometers here. This is still not enough of an orbit to make the Prometheus swoop down and rescue us, but it is enough of an orbit that I am confident that we will be. I can't speak anymore. I'm confident that we will make it, if only just. So let's now wait for apoapsis, and then we can round out our orbit there. And then the plan is going to be that we're going to have to rendezvous with the Prometheus, because we won't have the delta V here in the Icarus lander, and then we can use the Icarus to do the actual docking. So we're going to save a little bit of delta V for that maneuver, and that's about it. Because of course we can't use the Prometheus's engines once we are within 2 kilometers of the Icarus, for fear of frying poor Hedgen. Right, so let's establish an orbit. 100 meters per second do we have left in the capsule, and here we go, 60 kilometers periapsis with 94 meters per second left. That is cutting it close, damn it. So we can do 2 landings. But oh my god, they do have to be efficient. So I'm considering just dropping these 2 Science Juniors. They will give me a bit more delta V, not a terribly large amount, but a bit more, and that might just be enough. So now we switch to the Prometheus and make that rendezvous with the Icarus, and I'm going to do that off screen because orbital rendezvous and docking maneuvers I think you have seen a few times already, and if not, you can always scroll back a few videos and check them out yourself. So I'll see you when these 2 magnificent spaceships are in close proximity of one another. Speaking of that magnificent spaceship, let's enjoy the cinematic zoom into it. There we go. I'm going to press the right key. Boom. There it is. Dun, dun, dun. With the Earth in the background. I think that counts as a cinematic credit. Yeah, so see you in a bit. So here we are approaching Headgun. I keep forgetting this guy's name, but our brave lunar astronaut lander. Our brave lunar lander pilot astronaut Herbert Kerman. And of course we're going to have to time our fusion burn to be outside that 2 kilometer death radius. 2 kilometers is a death radius, the death zone, the kill blast area from the nuclear torch drive, so we are going to accept that 2.1 kilometers will be perfectly safe, at least for the duration of this mission. Yeah. Also, I think our trajectory is offset a bit, so our closest approach will be 1.6 kilometers, so we do in fact have to be slightly careful not to fry him. Apologies, this is again taking place on the dark side, so that's quite useless. But, well, hey, what you gonna do? There's only one sun in this system. Yeah, so let's add a bit of time warp there. And do as promised that final burn. Well, not 2.1 kilometers, but 2.4. That should be safe for that neutron spewing fusion drive. I'm going to reduce that to 0 as best as we can. Let's have a look. 0 meters per second. Well, 0.1. Can deal with that. I'm going to switch to the other ship, the Icarus, and then our brave astronaut, Hedgren, what was his name? We'll see that momentarily. Hutgan. Yeah, no, I did not remember that. Sorry. So let's see about setting the Prometheus as a target and going there. Now we have 90 meters per second of delta V remaining, remember? And we cannot use the Prometheus for maneuvering because that would kill Hudgen. So I'm going to go with 25 one way, 25 the other way, and the rest for leftover maneuvering. Of course we also have the RCS system. And I hope the game doesn't lock up right here and now. And it didn't. These are the things why I quick save every now and then, because if that would happen then, well, I wouldn't have too far to go back. Good news is we are now within the deadly kill zone radius. Well, that's not the good news, but that's just something that happened as well. Good news is that with the spare fuel tank now connected to the Prometheus, docking has become a bit easier. We don't have to steer right in between those big fusion pods anymore. We can just kind of sort of just dock, like, you know, like normal. So here we are approaching there. Pretty nice. Oh, pretty nice indeed. Please slow down now. There we go. Just looking at the ship and, well, forgetting to dock really. So control from there. Now I'm going to point it in the proper direction. I'm thinking this is going to be a whole lot more expedited than last time because, well, as I said, a lot less precision is now required. See, this is now protruding ever so slightly, so I think we're going to be fine either way. And even if not, it's still just a matter of rotating the docking port to the proper orientation. This is still something we can do. No worries about that one. So here comes the rotation, and yeah, I already was controlling that from the docking port, so I'm now completely facing the wrong way. Doesn't matter. Rotation is free in the game. That's something that's slightly unrealistic in Kerbal Space Program. The reaction wheels, they have infinite control authority, and in real life that is not the case. You can use them to go back and forth as much as you like. Well, assuming a zero friction perfect efficiency system, you can go back and forth as much as you like with a reaction wheel. But in every axis it is limited, because if you want to spin the ship you have to spin the wheel in the other direction. And of course these things are mechanical, so they don't go up to infinite speed. What they are used for are for very precise adjustments, because with an electric motor you can make a more precise adjustment than you can with an attitude thruster. And then once the wheel is saturated, as they call it, you can then use a propellant based attitude system to unsaturate the wheel. Basically you fire a thruster and move the reaction wheel. You slow down the reaction wheel in the opposite direction. recouping you some freedom of control. Now in KSP that's not how they work at all. They just give a magic torque along, well, any axis for as much as you want. Then again, in KSP rotational speed is capped, or angular momentum. I'm not sure which one. I think angular momentum is capped, or rotational speed, or both. You can't spin up as fast as you would like. Going too fast now, but I have the RCS system to slow me down. Let's test that. Yeah, that does in fact work. Yeah, this does stick out a little bit further than the docking port, so I'm still going to have to take care of the rotational alignment, but that should be no problem. We're coming in very off center here. I'm going to slow down because this is ridiculous. This is not the sign of a pro docking maneuver. Of course, I can't really control the ship that well with the RCS pods because there's only two, and they were strictly intentioned to only serve for backing away slowly from the deadly fusion ship. But you know, Hudgen didn't get the memo, I don't think. So let's try that alignment game again. I'm not sure if this ship drifted since I did the alignment or if it was just too far away in the first place. Either can happen. And also we are quite close to the moon. We're just 120 kilometers away from it, so orbital mechanics might have a slightly larger impact than it did around the Earth, where we were, well, a similar height away, 200 kilometers, but because the Earth is so much larger, that didn't have that much of an effect. So let's push forward at 0.5 meters per second, and I think we are pretty much dead on target, and I'm still in love with the looks of that Prometheus. That's really good. It's our first fusion powered ship, and the mission is so far going well. We didn't have the the reserve amount of fuel that I would have liked, but then again, Hudgen did make it back into orbit, which is of course all that counts really. So we're going to now, I've decided the new mission plan. We're going to dock. We're going to transfer the science into the Prometheus just for safekeeping. So if Hudgen does crash now on his subsequent mission, then, well, then that doesn't matter so much. Don't tell that to his family. Of course, that matters a great deal, but then at least we have the science safely in the fusion death ship, which is, of course, what really matters. Our velocity vector has drifted a tiny amount. I'm going to see if I can correct that by applying some thrust with the RCS system. Yeah, we have fixed the vector. Problem is we're now coming in a little bit too fast, and that we can also fix with our horribly unbalanced RCS system. 5.5 meters per second. Aligned pretty well. I think we're going to slide in just fine in between those fusion pods. And if not, then, well, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to cry, because then we will have ruined our beautiful ship. Or we could just bounce off, and then that wouldn't be that big a deal. We're coming in a little bit crooked. Not crooked, a little bit off center. But hopefully the docking port magnets can fix that for us. Here we are. Ooh, very, very off. Here we go. Sorry for the nighttime darkness, but important bit is we are now docked. And I'm going to go outside with Hudgen and use him to take 10 datas. Wow. Hello, screen. And carry them on over to the Prometheus, of course. This would be a bad time to ignite the fusion engine because, well, then all the science would vaporize. And usually vaporizing things is good for science, but not if it's the science itself that gets vaporized. Yeah. Still not a lot of radiation out here in space next to all these nuclear drives and reactors. Shielding must be good. To be honest, I don't really know why the KSP Interstellar gives the radiation readout. It's nice. It's something new, something extra. And maybe it has a use in finding thorium and uranium to drill for, but so far I've found the readings to be fairly random. Right, so we're inside the ship, and the mission is going to be, we're going to land on one of the poles. Not the polar crater, just straight up the poles. Wait a second, are we on a collision course? No, we're not. That's just an artifact. We have a highly inclined orbit already. The poles are easy to target, and we haven't landed there before, so we're going to do that. I will set up the necessary plane changes, maneuvers, course corrections, and all that stuff, and I will see you when we're ready to undock and begin our landing procedure. And there we are, rendezvoused up and coming up on the pole of the moon, the lunar pole. So we're going to repeat the same exercise again. First, we release the vessel, undock that, give it a blip of throttle forward, EVA HUD GAN, and well, this is a good picture again, but well, we have work to do. We have to EVA the guy over to the lander, where he will thrust in the retrograde direction to land on the lunar pole. Yeah, there's really not a lot of ways to describe that mission. We're going to return one more surface sample to the Prometheus. We're not going to attempt a double landing again, or, well, we could, but we have to make sure that our suborbital hop expends a little bit less delta V than the last one, because, well, reaching rendezvous with less than 50 meters per second left in the vessel is too dangerous. Especially when science is concerned. Yeah. Let's get into the pod. Here we go, and we will immediately proceed to burn retrograde, because HUDGAN is impatient and doesn't feel like waiting for full orbit. I think, yeah, if we burn here, we should be able to, well, we should first and foremost activate the engine, of course. There we go. Activating that, not crashing into the mothership. We should be able to reduce our trajectory sufficiently to land immediately here. We have 7 kilometers per second of delta V again, so it looks as though things are, well, that's a great sentence again. It looks as though things are looking up again. That's what I was gonna say. But yeah, let me just round that off by saying that I'm once again confident for a prosperous and successful outcome of this mission, if we don't drift off course too far. Yeah, I'm going to set up this landing, and as before, I will rejoin you all, dear viewers, when the ground is in sight, hopefully illuminated by our searchlights. So here we are. While coming in for the landing, I was pondering the functionality of this design. Now, I'm not too happy with it. I wanted to get more out of the suborbital hopping, like what I tried to build with the aluminium hybrid rocket. Aluminum, aluminium, it's all the same stuff. With that hybrid rocket, that could of course refuel from the lunar surface. And I was thinking, well, maybe I can make this lander bigger. The theoretical maximum for delta V with these 800 second specific impulse and the 8 to 9 ratio tanks is about 15 to 16 kilometers per second, again off the top of my head. Now I could make a craft that's like 2 or 3 times the size, has a lot more fuel, but then I'm sacrificing thrust to weight, which means it won't be able to land, not until half its tanks are empty, and that well kind of defeats the purpose of a larger tank. I could add more engines and more fuel, and well, at that point you're basically making it big direct ascent landing vehicle. And while I'm talking again, the risk of crashing has become imminent. So I'm pointing straight up now. I have 10 seconds. Oh god. Oh god, we're gonna crash. No! Oh dear god. He can survive. EVA. Let go. Yeah, that's the danger of talking while that's the danger of talking while flying, while landing. We are EVAing hard, and of course now that we are outside, we have no real frame of reference for our speed. We had about 150 meters per second going down, and going down we were. And the EVA pack has that. We're going up actually. Oh, the vertical speed indicator does work. That's good. That means we can just work on getting rid of the horizontal speed, and then we should be able to come in for a landing, no problem. Good thing we put the science in the Prometheus. Yeah, that's definitely a good thing. And now we have a guy on the moon, but well, we can send something for him. Yeah, I was gonna say how I didn't really like the lander so much, mostly because I can't. If I look down, I can't do the thrusting in reverse bit anymore. Ooh. I was going on about how I didn't really like the lander so much because it afforded me only 2 landings on the moon. So, well, I guess it's not that unfortunate that we lost it. Hey, look at that. I think my frantic EVA jetpack thrusting has worked. The ground is appearing not at all to be traveling so too quickly. I don't know what exactly happened, how the capsule managed to bounce up so happily, so readily apparent, but well, let's call that an emergency ejection system. What? How was that too fast? I'm sure his knees should have been able to support that. Well, that was the scale dysphoria thing probably. We're coming up into the lunar terrain with the lander at about 150 meters per second, and then of course doing so with an EVA Kerbal doing only 15 meters per second seems perfectly reasonable, although that was probably a little bit too fast. Well, there's that. That went crazy pretty quickly. One of my viewers commented on the Don't Starve video I uploaded that as soon as we gather science, everybody always dies. Well, I suppose that's true. Fortunately, the Prometheus has remote control. Let's have 10 seconds of silence for Hadgen and then promptly forget him. I want to control the Prometheus now. I was gonna say, fortunately, the Prometheus has remote control, so we can pilot that back to Earth. Or we could do something different. We could rendezvous with the lunar laboratory, but that doesn't really serve a purpose. Apart, of course, from, well, giving those scientists a break, but I don't think they deserve one. They need to generate more science. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pilot the Prometheus back to Earth, where it can be refueled. The science from the 2 landings, unfortunately not from 3 or 4, can be recovered by a team from the ground, and then we can outfit it with the next generation of amazing lander, and we might take that to Mars. Because, well, we're gonna say that this little expedition proved the reliability and track record of the Prometheus fusion-based deployment system for extraterrestrial operations. Yeah, let's go with that tagline. And of course, now it's sort of important that we manage to leave the lunar sphere of influence and end up in a somewhat equatorial Earth orbit, because we want to rendezvous with that again. So I'm going to wait until the moon is at that point, and I think that's the proper thing to do, and then I'm going to try and set up a escape node that will put us in an equatorial Earth orbit, or at least something close enough so that we might tweak that orbit to be equatorial. I'm making a problem where there shouldn't really have to be one, because, well, the ship has enough delta V to make any plane change we require, but still it's nice to, you know, get it right the first time. I think that's about it. Yeah, that should do well. Yeah, that's looking great. So let's do it like that. 680 meters per second, that's like 2.5 bursts from the fusion drive. We have 10 kilometers per second of delta V left, and of course we have, well, we have some empty fuel tanks. This one is completely empty, this one is half empty, as is this one. So we did actually use some fuel on the fusion drive. So I'm thinking for tomorrow, about the mission. Well, first of course to collect the science from the Prometheus, put some Kerbals aboard, some permanent occupation. It works fine in remote control mode, but well, it's better when it's not. And get the science, refuel it, put some deuterium on it. Well, I think we have enough deuterium at the moment. Yeah, put some deuterium. No, deuterium is fine. Put some liquid fuel, put some oxidizer for the lander, and try to repeat this exercise except on Mars. So the lander could be a little bit beefier, and then we can go to Mars. I think that would be amazing. And hopefully, well, it worked once. We sent the lander down to the moon. He did science, he did another landing, and he came back. So it worked. It worked fine. That's the important thing to hang on to here. So when we go to Mars, we can repeat that for the 2 small moons. Oh, although no, that moon was really dangerous. It exploded the craft when we got near to it. So we're not going to the moon. We're going to just Mars and do the science there. Yeah. But first, of course, we have to return to Earth with the fusion drive. Well, it seems as though the lunar poles, this is now the second surface sample that was collected but never returned. Well, this surface sample was never collected. I think smashing a Kerbal into it doesn't really count as collecting a surface sample. He sampled the surface, that's for sure, but yeah, not in a way that's worth reporting to the scientists. We're just gonna say that he accidentally opened the airlock or something like that. This was definitely his fault. Definitely. I had most assuredly nothing to do with it. So, here we go, firing up the fusion drives. I think fusion torch plasma should be like long, big, solar-like, massive explosions instead of rocket pissing. But then again, I do understand if you're making a mod that's this awesome and the heat radiation look really good, I can forgive you for not spending another month of your hard-earned life on making engine effects. I'm very, very, very impressed with the KSP Interstellar mod overall. It really adds a whole new dimension to the game, and if it has grown a little bit stale for you, either in stock or in RSS or whatever, just give that a go, and it gives you these, well, all these new technologies and things to play with. If you do the KSP Interstellar thing in the stock game though, beware, because pretty much anything will immediately allow you to go everywhere. I mean, a ship like this that has dozens of kilometers per second of delta V, it will allow you to go anywhere, even in the real solar system. Imagine how powerful that is in the stock solar system. Even the methane engines, even just the stock rocket that I use for launching stuff into orbit has 20 kilometers per second of delta V. If the payload carries a nuclear rocket with some fuel tanks, that will get you literally anywhere. It will allow you from Kerbin to stop your orbit around the sun and establish the same orbit backwards. So that will take you anywhere. So if you do that, if you combine the KSP Interstellar stuff with stock KSP, be prepared for a somewhat easier experience. But it's still fun, so by all means, if you haven't done it, give it a shot. So for that, I think we are on course back to Earth. Yeah, we are. Wonderful. With that, I'm going to leave the episode today. Check back tomorrow for an update on the fate of the Prometheus, with its first pilot and lunar explorer Hadgan tragically smeared across the lunar poles. I'm Lorenzo. See you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.